Yeah. So I just want to give a little bit of a kind of background and contexting. The the Can you see the screen? Can you see my screen share?
Yeah, you're on the first slide.
We can.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, what we've done is we've organized the body of Irish myths into nine 8-week immersions. And the one we're on at the moment is the creation myth, Sessa's vision and journey. And some of you are doing immersion 3. So the one we're doing at the moment is creation myths. The ones that were with us in June and July, they did immersion 9 and immersion 1. So yeah. So has it moved on to Sessa?
Yes, it's working. It's working.
Okay. Well, this one is all about Sessa. This is the first woman to arrive, the first person to arrive in Ireland, who arrived with 50 women and 3 men, having been on an absolutely extraordinary journey. And that journey began in Meroe in northern Sudan, which Margaret, I think, or Mary, was it, who worked in Sudan, said was the Valley of the Kings. But Google Meroe in northern Sudan, and you will find that it was an extraordinary civilization. And she carried on up to Egypt, through to the Babylonian and Assyrian Empire, and then came down to the Hebrew culture, when Noah wouldn't let her on the ark. And so in some of the stories, that is. And so what she basically said is, well, I will build my own ark, and I will set off, and I will go to a new land and start again. And so what we decided as an organizing principle for this particular program was that we would basically take where Sessa was when she spoke to Noah, because by the time, and we are playing a little bit with the myth, but why not? And essentially, by the time Noah offered her or was exploring whether she should join the ark, she had already been exposed to other mythologies, particularly the Egyptian and the Babylonian and the Assyrian. And then she, having made her choice, would be exposed to the Greek. So what we will see is that she essentially had some choices. She wasn't just someone who knew one mythology. She actually knew other ones, which gave us some comparison. And then obviously she traveled on, and we are going to then cover the amazing Greek myths in next week, and the extraordinary creation story of the Titans and the clash of the Titans with the Olympians, and that whole mythology we will be covering next week. This week's very much about the Babylonian mythology, and Fiona's going to take us through the story of Tiamat and Apsu, and Tiamat and Marduk. And one of the things you will see is how influential it was on the Hebrew myth. So that's just a little bit of the context setting. And essentially what it's basically saying is what this mythology is about is the options that Sessa had, having seen the mythologies of the world at that time. And so I'd just like to say a little bit about creation myths. And one of the things about them is that they are a cosmogony, which is about the creation of order. And so that what they are is that the first time that a civilization moved from chaos rather, to order. And I think that is a hugely interesting moment in a culture, this move from chaos to order. And in a way, it's in many ways articulates in that how we should act, how we should think, and what we should believe. And so why I think it is so relevant is that any time subsequently that chaos or disorder or disintegration of culture or society is threatened again, people go back again to these creation myths. And to a certain extent, the creation myth defines and decides how people will behave when chaos or disorder or disintegration of culture is threatened. So what you might do is see these creation myths is not about normal behavior, but about a hardwiring description of the behavior that people and a culture exhibits when they are faced with the disintegration of culture. So I'd just like to give you one more map that I found quite useful in looking at these creation myths. And it is to do with the characters that you find in the creation myths. So typically, can you see that? The cast of characters is typically, can you see this, the order and chaos?
Yes, it's
yeah, and the Great Mother. Typically, the two foundational characters are the Great Mother or the Great Goddess and the Great Father. And what the Great Mother could be seen to represent is that they are the initial creator of something out of nothing, out of the chaos. They often play an absolutely pivotal role. And it's very interesting to see the role that they play. The Great Father in some way represents the known, and they are the all-powerful God. And the thing that's so interesting about the Great Mother or the Goddess is, as well as being capable of creativity, they are also very capable of destruction and destructive behavior. The Great Father is about protection and order, but he can also become tyrannical. And the role of the archetypal son or the daughter, the hero or the heroine in the story, is to mediate between these two forces. So what you will notice is that it'll keep an eye out for the goddess and keep an eye out for the god and how they are portrayed, and recognize that they have within them the qualities of both creation and destruction. Can you now see the two that we're dealing with today, Marduk and Tiamat?
Yes.
Well, this is what Bill has done, is create the two foundational characters that we're going to be looking at today. So without more ado, it's over to Fiona, who's going to take us through the great Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish. So Chaoban, will you spotlight?
Yes, just give me a second. There we go. Whenever you're ready, Fiona.
So this is the story of one of the oldest, if not the oldest, creation myth. It concerns the birth of the gods and the creation of the universe and even of human beings. So a long, long time ago, even before there was time, when on high, meaning Enuma Elish, the heavens above, They were not yet named, nor the earth below. And in the beginning, there was only undifferentiated water swirling around in chaos. And out of this swirl, the waters divided into sweet, fresh water, known as the god Apsu, and salty water, the goddess Tiamat. Apsu, the first god, and Tiamat, the mother of all, live in a space of nothingness, without pastures or reed beds, or gods, or names, or destinies, or dominions. And so the two of them mingled their waters, together birthing the first gods, Lamnu and Lahamnu, Anshar and Kishar, each growing to maturity and speaking their names aloud for the very first time. So then those were the gods of the lands, then of the upper and lower spheres, then the god of the heavens, and finally the god of sweet waters which irrigate crops, Ea. And Ea was respected by all, distinguished by his intelligence and strength. Anshar and Kishar, giving birth to Ea, saw that he was good and that he was sweet, and they knew that he was filled with wisdom that was equal to all four of the previous generation, and Ea was exceedingly wise and greater than his father and grandfathers. Many other gods were born too, and all of these new gods would get together and basically party all day. Well, in fairness, there's not much else to do in a floating void. And all their noise and activity stirred up the waters and began to really play on the nerves of the first two gods. Apsu and Tiamat were used to the peace and quiet of nothingness. The mother of all, Tiamat, was inclined to indulge them, as mothers would. But even then, they still annoyed her. Their father, Apsu, yelled at them to turn it all down and be quiet, but like youngsters everywhere and throughout all time, the rowdy teenagers just ignored the elders who were trying to spoil their fun. Finally, Apsu summoned his advisor, Mumu, who counseled him to hold a meeting with Tiamat and sort it all out. And so they floated over to Tiamat and chatted with the mother goddess, and Apsu said, look, this is intolerable. I can't even nap, never mind have a good night's sleep. So why don't we just destroy them all? These kids horsing around, they're wrecking my buzz. I'm absolutely fed up. So this idea to murder all her children did not sit well with Tiamat. She was shocked and enraged, and she screamed that she couldn't possibly destroy what she had given life to. He agreed they needed to be trained in the ways of silent abiding in the void. Apsu would just need to be a wee bit more patient and understanding with the kids. Mumu, however, did not agree with Tiamat's benevolent stance. So he had a quiet word with Apsu and said, Apsu, have you heard what she said? Did you catch that vibe? You know, there was a lot of tension in her voice. She's tired, you know. She really is tired. She's a woman. She doesn't want to make this decision. But you could do it for her, and I think she'd be glad of it. And Apsu was delighted with what Mumu had said. He was so pleased that he gave him a huge embrace, and Mumu hopped in his lap and they had a big old kiss, and they decided that that was going to be the plan. However, the younger gods caught wind of what was going to happen. And for the first time, they were silent, shocked into quietness. What were they to do? Now Ea, being wise and brave, figured he was not going to allow this to happen. Now, what you didn't know about Ea was that he was the god of enchantment as well. And so he summoned forth a very strong enchantment, and he lulled Apsu and Mumu to sleep. And while they were asleep, he jumped in, he stole Apsu's crown and mental radiance for himself. He skillfully murdered Apsu and enslaved Mumu. And then he set himself up as a supreme ruler in his new palace, which was made out of the carcass of Apsu, whom he'd killed. Now, in this wonderful temple of his dead grandfather, he took himself a wife. Now, his wife, whose name I can't remember right now, I'm going to have to look up, and himself, gave birth, or he impregnated her, and she bore him a son who was the most magnificent god yet. His name was Marduk. Now, Marduk had limbs that were so bright and so beautiful and so awesome, it was hard to look at them, never mind describe them. He had 4 eyes and 4 ears, and he could shoot fire from his mouth. And above him there was a constellation of lights. And he was wonderful and awesome. And everyone rejoiced when they saw this young god, and he was nursed by all the goddesses, and he was given all things. And his grandfather was delighted in him. And his grandfather was so pleased, he gave him the 4 winds to play with. And he taught him how to make thunderstorms and how to cause desert storms. He taught him to play with earth. He taught him to hold back the tide. And Marduk loved playing with his new toys, so much so that he increased the level of noise in the kingdom, in creation, by his constant tinkering and playing, and the noise increased. Now, Tiamat was not only pissed off that her lover and partner had been killed and dismembered, she also was deeply unhappy with the increase in general noise. So she finally decided to take matters into her own hands and be done with them all. Begotten of her or not, she was going to just wipe them out. And she took unto herself her own advisor, Quingu. She promised Quingu that he would have the throne. She slept with him. She conferred on him the tablet of destiny. And she promised that if he helped her, he would be the supreme ruler. And she set about making an army that would destroy her children. And in that army, she created 11 strange and fearsome creatures. And I'm going to have to read from the actual tablet here, because you need to hear the words. She created the Hydra, the dragon, the hairy hero, the great demon, the savage dog, and the scorpion man, fierce demons, the fish man and the bull man, carriers of merciless weapons, fearless in the face of battle. She made a scorpion and a snake and replaced their blood with venom. And she assembled these fearsome creatures, and she conferred with the elder gods and made a plan to vanquish all of her children. And so Quingu, whom she had amplified and magnified, and herself, set about to call the day when they would destroy all.